Buckle up, baby. Buckle up, baby. Down in the dark where the cold spots bloom, Gypsy's got a tail, Quinn cracks the gloom. Hear the knock, hear that hiss, something's near, you don't want to miss. Buckle up, baby, it's buckle up, baby. Gypsy and Quinn, they take you there. Buckle up, baby, it's buckle up, baby. Ghosts in the room and shivers in the air.
Hey, and welcome to Buckle Up, Baby. So, listen, my whole bitch there, she came to me and she was like, Gypsy, you know how you like those stories? Have you ever heard of the Enfield Poltergeist hauntings?
I did.
And I was like, no, tell me more. And she was like, listen, that is a rabbit hole you need to go down, and thank me later. And I did.
Still, yeah.
So they kind of called it the British version of the Amityville Horror.
Yeah, they did. I saw the documentary a long time ago, and I think it was on Netflix or something. And I had seen the documentary, and with Buckle Up Baby coming, I just knew that she had to read this, she had to watch it, she had to read all about it, she had to do all of the good things. So she did. And here we are.
Listen, something, and I'm not making this claim lightly, trust me, because I am not one of those. It's like, this happened to me and you've got to believe me. Don't believe me if you don't. It's absolutely fine. It's no skin off of my nose. But while I was
She don't
trying to
really
watch
care.
this, my TV kept going off. And there was no breeze in my bedroom. The fan was not on, but the wall hanging over in the corner there, the macrame one, the one you know which one I'm talking about, was doing all of this against the wall. And then it was fast forwarding bits, it was rewinding bits, and then it was turning the TV
She called me
again.
and she was like, I cannot watch this. This is like, there is something going on. The TV, the house, the world does not want me to see this documentary. I'm like, push through.
Well, I did push through. And I did watch it in the end. And then I went down that rabbit hole, and I went and did my thing, because, you know, I like my facts, and I like my figures, and I like things to be presented as they are. So I'm going to have Quinn read out the intro to this section. And
so, guys, I am coming to you with the Enfield Poltergeist. Everybody is welcome. The Enfield Poltergeist is one of the most famous and controversial paranormal cases in British history. It took place between 1977 and 1979 at 284 Green Street in Enfield. North London is where Enfield is. The case focused on the Hodgson family, particularly the sisters Janet and Margaret, and it involved claims of supernatural disturbances that attracted widespread media attention, scientific investigation, and public debate.
So I'm going to give you a bit of background on the Hodgson family. The Hodgson family consisted of the mother, Peggy Hodgson, and her 4 children, Margaret, Janet, Johnny, and Billy. The family lived in a modest council house. Listen, I'm a council baby. I know what that is. And prior to the events, they were considered as an ordinary working class household dealing with financial and emotional strain following the parents' separation. Johnny was at a residential school for boys with behavioural issues. And Billy had a pronounced stutter that meant that Peggy regularly had to translate for Billy.
I actually kind of get that, because how many times did you have to translate for me? And I don't have a stutter. People just don't know what I'm saying. So if you don't know what I'm saying and you want to know what's going on, just wait for her bit. She'll be there in a minute. Yeah, there you go. So I want to go over the reported paranormal activity, right? So we're going to go over what was actually reported, and we're going to find out, right? So the reported disturbances began in August 1977 with knocking sounds heard on the walls. These quickly escalated to causing more dramatic events, including furniture moving without explanation, objects being thrown, loud noises, and doors opening and closing by themselves. One of the most widely reported phenomena was the alleged levitation of Janet Hodgson, which was captured in photographs. There's actual photographs
I
of
will
this.
put the photographs in, yeah?
Yeah, photographs are coming in now. There were also claims a deep male voice speaking through Janet, said to belong to a deceased former resident of the property. So there's that.
Yeah. And can we just point out while we're on the topic of the photographs, in
Yeah?
1977 they didn't have the equipment. There was no Photoshop. There was no AI. There was nothing like that. It was
No.
really, really. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
impossible, but it was really,
Yeah.
really difficult to fake photography that way.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, they tried to fake the Loch Ness monster and look at the picture. Do you know what I mean? So,
Right.
I mean, they're not as there as they were. Do you know what I mean?
hmm So the Enfield case is notable for the volume of evidence collected. More than 30 witnesses, including police officers, journalists, neighbours, and paranormal investigators, reported witnessing unusual events. A police officer reported seeing a chair move across the floor without physical contact. Audio recordings captured unexplained voices, and photographs were published showing Janet seemingly levitating above her bed. Investigators Maurice Gross and Guy Lyon Playfair from the Society for Psychical Research documented the case excessively over an 18-month period.
So, despite the large volume of evidence that they did have, the case does remain highly controversial. Some investigators argued that the phenomena were genuine, whilst others believed that some events were staged or exaggerated by the children. Now, Janet Hodgson later admitted to faking some incidents, leading critics to question the entire case. However, supporters argue that not all of the events can be explained by trickery alone, and they can't.
So, photographs taken during the investigation showed Janet seemingly suspended in mid-air in her bedroom. These images became widely circulated in newspapers and are still debated today as either proof of paranormal activity or stage moments of captured mid-jump. Newspaper articles from 1977 documented the case as it unfolded, bringing widespread public attention and contributing to its lasting fame. The Hodgson family are the primary witnesses. So, one, you've got Peggy Hodgson, the mother. Peggy
Yep.
reported that she saw furniture move on its own, including a heavy chest of drawers sliding across the room. In early incidents, she's described a chest of drawers moving away from the wall, then came towards her again when she tried to push it back.
Janet Hodgson, aged 11, decades later, Janet described the experiences as traumatic. There was levitation, there were voices, incidents happened that were quite life threatening for me. The case centred on her investigators reported a gruff voice apparently coming from her, supposed levitation, violent disturbances involving her body. The neighbour's testimony, Vic Nottingham, I mean, you can tell everybody what Vic was saying.
So, Vic Nottingham entered the house during the first night and heard unexplained noises, and I quote, I went in there and I couldn't make out these noises, knocking on the wall, on the ceiling. I was beginning to get a bit frightened.
The general neighbour testimony, neighbours had actually reported that they heard loud knocking noises moved around their house. They had seen objects being thrown or displaced. The police witness statements, these are especially important. WPC Carolyn Heaps gave a sworn affidavit stating, what did she say?
A large armchair moved, unassisted, 4 feet across the floor. Another wording of the same observation from records, she saw a chair wobble and slide without explanation. Another account notes the chair moved 3 to 4 feet across the living room floor without any physical contact. This is one of the most cited official testimonies of the entire case.
Graham Morris, the Daily Mirror photographer, claimed direct physical interaction with an object. I saw toy bricks flying through the air. One of them hit me on the head. Nobody seemed to be throwing them.
Reporter George Fallows, after multiple nights in the house, stated, "I have heard knocks and I've been present when strange occurrences have been witnessed by others."
I saw a yellow brick hit the wall. I did not see the brick that hit Morris. Investigators for the Society for Psychical Research, Morris Gross. Now, this guy is really important to the whole case. This
Yeah.
guy is super, super important. And his conclusion, what was his quote that he said, Gypsy, the conclusion he had from it?
He said, "I believe that genuine poltergeist type phenomena is occurring attached to people, not places." He also recorded hundreds of hours of audio evidence, including voices and knocking phenomena.
Guylan Playfair, who was a co-investigator, he reported that curious whistling and barking noises coming from Janet's general direction. His later stance, he believed some incidents were genuine, but others could have been exaggerated or faked by the children.
Additional documented phenomena, multiple witnesses, across more than 30 witnesses, furniture reportedly moved on its own, objects were thrown across rooms.
Knocking sounds were heard inside the walls, children were seen levitating, and that was claimed by multiple observers. Some important context, though, even among the witnesses.
Some investigators believed the case was partly genuine, others argued it was largely or entirely a hoax, citing incidences where the children were caught faking events.
But children are going to do that though, right? Children,
Yeah.
how they process something bad happens, they add little bits on it, don't they? They're going to be.
Yeah.
Like
But
the Enfield case is unusually rich in multi-source testimony, including family accounts of moving furniture, independent neighbour reports of knocking and fear, a police affidavit describing a chair moving unassisted.
journalists witnessing and being struck by objects, investigators documenting sounds, voices, and repeated disturbances. Despite this, the credibility of those testimonies remains heavily disputed, making the case one of the most controversial in paranormal history.
So all of those elements are explicitly documented, even though full tapes are not publicly released. The sources confirm that knocking sounds were recorded and they responded to questioning, even though full line by line transcripts are mostly archived physically rather than online.
But we did manage to piece together quite a bit of reconstructed
Yes, we did.
reconstructed transcripts. Now, these are not verbatim, they are not letter for letter, but they do give you a taste of what was going on in the house. What we're going to do right now is we're going to read out to you some of the transcribed recorded sessions that were collated as evidence
Yeah.
in this case.
And guys, this is mad.
So,
This stuff's mad.
so late 1977, living room, evening investigation, midnight. Setup and baseline. The recorder clicks on. Gross. Tape running, present in the Hodgson living room. Playfair. Janet is in the chair, appears calm. 5 seconds of silence. The first anomalous sound. 2 sharp knocks from the wall. Investigator, did you make that noise, Janet?
No.
Pause. Knock from behind the door. Investigators frequently noted knocks and with no visible source. Knocking phenomena were a core feature. So we're now at 1:30 a.m. establishing yes/no communication. Gross says, if something is there, give us 2 knocks for yes and 1 knock for no. There's a pause. Playfair quietly says, that sounded deliberate. Not response systems like this were repeatedly used and documented. We've now moved on to 2:10 in the morning. Basic questioning. Investigator says, "Are you in this room with us now?" Investigator, "Were you once alive?" The investigator says, "Are you male?" At 3:40 a.m, audible movement happens, sudden scrape and chair leg shifting.
I didn't move it, Janet says.
Short silence, and then the light object impacts against a distant wall. Playfair says something just crossed the room. Objects hurled across rooms and furniture and disturbance were widely reported. We're now at 5 a.m, a transition to voice phenomenon. Gross says, "Janet, are you okay?" There's no reply. Janet's breathing becomes heavy. At 5:45 a.m, there's the first emergence of the voice. The voice is strained and faint.
Yes.
Playfair says that did not sound like her. At 6:20, direct questioning of the entity takes place. The investigator says, "Who are you?" There's a pause and laboured breathing. The voice, in broken delivery, says,
My name is Bill Wilkins.
There's a short silence, and then the voice says,
And I come from Durrance Park.
This wording and fragmented delivery come directly from documented transcripts. So, at 7:10 in the morning, there is an expansion on the identity. The voice continuing says,
And I am 72 years old. And I have come here to see my family, but they are not here now.
At 8:30 a.m, the investigators react. Playfair, in a lowered voice, says, "It's coming in bursts, one syllable at a time." Gross says, "Keep recording, don't interrupt." The investigators explicitly describe the speech as effortful bursts. At 9:15 a.m, the disturbance escalates, and an object hits the wall.
Stop it!
There's no visible source. At 10:20 in the morning, the death questioning begins. Investigator Bill says, "How did you die?" There's a pause and breathing, rasping, and the voice,
I went blind. And I had a hemorrhage. And I fell asleep. And I died on a chair in the corner downstairs.
At 11:40 a.m, silence and environmental shift happens. So there's 10 seconds of silence, soft knocks, and then another from a different wall. Playfair says it's moving location. At 12:30, an attempt to verify the presence of the entity via knocks. Investigator, how many people are in this room? Gross says, "That's 6. That's correct." Counting responses via knocks were reported in summaries of the interactions. At 1400 hours, 2 p.m, there's a sudden loud movement and a scraping across the floor. Playfair says, chair again, watch it.
It's pushing me.
The voice fades at 3:10 in the afternoon. The voice fades and session winds down. The voice very faintly.
Yes.
At 4 p.m, the end of recording, Gross ends the tape. Playfair notes the object movements, the voice manifestation, and the knock responses. The recorder switches off. That's the end of the first reconstructed.
That is so creepy. That entire scene that you can imagine played out in that house is so creepy. To imagine that, somebody died there and was essentially stuck there, and the reason all these things were going on is because it had no idea how to leave. Do you know what I mean? That in itself is an insane story.
So we also have another reconstructed script for you. We're going to read out for you. Our beautiful queen is going to play Janet again. And
I'm such an actress.
and Bill, and I will play the
Yes,
investigators.
that's right. Let's go.
So the second late stage investigation, it's a night session. Multiple witnesses
Yeah.
are present.
Yeah.
At 12 midnight, the start of the recorder clicks on. Gross says, tape running, multiple witnesses present. Playfair says, Janet appears agitated. A low thud comes from the ceiling. Silence. A violent bang. Wall impact.
Oi! Leave me alone!
Object skids across the floor. That came from nowhere, says one of the witnesses. Thrown objects and sudden impacts are consistently described in these reports. At 1:20, the knocks begin aggressively. 3 rapid knocks, and then 4 more from another wall. It's not staying in one place, says Playfair. If you are here, respond properly. 2 knocks for yes. At 2:10, escalating interaction. Investigator asks, are you causing this disturbance? Investigator asks, do you want us to leave? There's a pause. At 3 a.m, there's furniture movement. A heavy scrape and a chair drags across the floor.
I'm not touching it.
The chair leg lifts and drops. Sharp crash. Furniture displacement, including chairs and sofas, is widely documented. At 4:15, transition to voice, more forceful than the prior session. Janet begins breathing heavily.
Yes.
Gross says, it started again. Listen carefully. At 4:50, an aggressive vocal presence. Investigator, who are you?
Bill Wilkins. Still here. Not gone.
The identity and the name are consistent with the documented transcripts we've already had. At 5:40 a.m, a sudden violent noise during the speech. Loud bang, something strikes a wall hard. Glass and small objects start rattling. Witness says, that nearly hit me. At 6:10 a.m, the hostile tone emerges.
Go away. Get out.
Rapid knocking, irregular, forceful. SPR summaries describe that the later voice was abusive and hostile. The investigators persist. Investigator says, why are you here?
My house. They are not here.
Matches an earlier statement about family not here from transcripts. 8:10 in the morning. Physical distress of a forceful subject.
It's hurting me.
The The chair tips slightly. 9 a.m. Apparent simultaneous phenomena. A knock from the ceiling, a knock from the wall, different direction. An object slides across the floor. Playfair says, multiple points of activity. At 20 past 10, the intensified vocalization, fragmented shouting.
Dead, 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 in the chair, downstairs.
At 11:30 a.m., hostility and obscenity, pattern-based, not fabricated quotes. Some sources confirm the voice used abusive and often obscene speech, but exact wording is not fully published online. So this is represented without inventing specific phrases. The voice, unintelligible and aggressive tone, repeated harsh vocal bursts. Witness says, what did it say? Playfair, obscene, very clear tone. 12:40 p.m. Peak disturbance, heavy impact, loud crash, object hits the wall with force, short scream from Janet. Ah! Gross says, stay calm, stay calm. Scraping continues for several seconds. At the 1:30, an attempt to regain control. The investigator says, if you understand me, not twice. Immediately. Extremely loud. Investigator, stop this now. Silence then. At 20 past 2 in the afternoon, a sudden drop in activity, 6 seconds of silence, soft movement, the chair settles, no further knocks. At 10 past 3 in the afternoon, a faint vocal trace.
Go.
4 o'clock in the afternoon, the end of the session. Gross says, ending tape, severe movement noted. Playfair says, voice stronger than before, increasing aggression.
The recorder clicks off. What this second session reflects. I mean, they did check the house. There was no place for them to. You know what I mean?
There was no way
the children were all sat in front of them. Yeah, the children were all sat in front of them. Everybody was visible to each other. And there's no way someone in the house next door could hear them talking quietly at 3 a.m. to do knocks and this, that in the right area.
No.
And this, quite frankly, you know, before the reason we read these transcripts to you is because before we had YouTube and AI and before we had all of these things, the only way to submit a police report was to transcribe everything. So I need you guys to think of it like it being a court, right? A judge gets appointed by whatever town, city or state, right? Wherever you may be. You have a judge and then you have a court stenographer. Their job is to write down and type every single word said in the court unless the judge says off the record. Now, this is exactly what Maurice Grosse had to do, what the police officers had to do, and what everybody else who wanted this to be officially on record, they had to type it up exactly like this. There was no way to just upload it into a computer. There was no way to just get it onto a file. So we're reading transcripts like this, but what we're doing is reading a conversation between Maurice Grosse and Janet and the spirit. This is exactly what was given, not only to police, but for document. And a lot of it is being held back, right? Some of this stuff's got redactions on it because the public are not allowed to know it. So if you're telling me that this never really happened, why are there redactions on statements?
Right. But also, can we just acknowledge that while this was all going on and there was such a heavy media highlight on this whole case, Janet and Margaret had to go to school.
Yeah.
And they were bullied severely because of this.
And if you're making this up, no, they never got money. They never got anything from this. These children had to go to school, endure the bullying, come home, endure people in their house, reporters, photographers, you know, Maurice Grosse, his intel, all of these people were in their home all the time. And their mother was going through a divorce, so these children were going through the separation of their entire family as well.
Yeah. But it is highlighted across this whole investigation is where there is trauma or negativity, that will invite negative entities, because because the energy is already there.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's widely considered that that's the reason that that entity came about at that time and not before, when the family was living happily together, or probably not happily together, to be fair, because it was the 70s, let's be
yeah,
real.
but all
Um,
together. And I think that a lot of the time when a
yeah,
husband and a wife is going through a bad patch, the last people to know about it are the children. And I do
yeah.
think that children see and feel spirits and spiritual things way more, easily than adults do. So maybe this
Yeah,
was just
because
the one
they're
thing
more
that had
open
these
to it.
children. Yeah, they're way more susceptible to being able to see these things, aren't they?
Yeah,
So maybe
because
it
they
was an
still
event
believe
like
in
this, they
magic.
say. Yeah, they
Children
do.
still believe in magic. They still believe in the tooth fairy. They still believe in Santa Claus. They're so much more susceptible to
Yeah.
ideas of fantasy, whereas adults will, as we've seen in previous cases, adults will try and apply reason to the
Yep,
situation,
Raymond,
and ignore it
exactly.
and be really cynical and, cut
But
themselves
I'm
off
not
from
being
enjoying it.
funny, right? And for me, my thinking on it, right, is that they they've not made any money off it, right? Their story, they've not made
No,
any money off the story. They've
no,
not
I
cashed
have
in
got
on
an
it. There's
update.
been movies, there's documentaries. If this
Yep,
was faked, do you not think, right? Do you remember we were talking about cryptoids on the last episode and we
yep,
were talking about the famous picture of the Loch Ness Monster? Now, the famous picture of the Loch Ness Monster is a fake. It is a fake picture. It's not a real image. And it took years for them to figure out that it wasn't real. It was a little boy who had a thing on a bit of wood and he took it at a funny angle.
yep.
Now, do you not think that if they had faked all of this, the best time to come out and admit it would have been in the last 10, 20 years because of the
Right.
money they would then be able to make and rake in through interviews, TVs, how they did it? Everybody's going to want to know because this case exploded when it happened.
Yeah, it
So the
really did.
fact that they've not done any of those, does that not tell you you're in yourself? Does that not change your mind?
Like, they didn't gain any money from it. The reporters never paid
No.
them for their story. They didn't even call the press. It was the neighbor. It was the police and the neighbors next door that reported it to the press. They didn't
Yeah,
even call the press,
yeah,
so they never asked for that
exactly.
publicity.
And I mean, that woman was trying to just get through her divorce, right? And at the start, probably thought her children were acting up, and they, were going through their own feelings with dad not being there and all of these things. And could you imagine having to then look after these children with an active poltergeist, with all of these strangers in your house, and then also to have people accuse you of being a liar on top of it? Where do you go?
Right, right. I think they just got so much stick from it,
Yeah,
like across the board. The kids at
yeah, I
school, the
totally
mother
agree.
probably got stick from it, just going and getting a loaf of bread from the corner
Yeah.
shop.
Yeah, that's it. Yep, a
That was
hundred
London at that
percent.
time.
And
Because
notoriety is a
obviously his
thing, and
house.
it's not always a good thing. But do you have an
No,
update about the families and
yeah,
stuff like that for us?
I
What are they
do.
doing now? What are they doing now? What's the latest on them?
So I did look up what happened to the Hodgson family after this all died down in the press and everything at the end of 1979. And
Yeah,
after events, the Hodgson family faced long-lasting emotional and social effects. The intense media attention and public scrutiny made their lives difficult, really difficult for the children. Um, Janet Hodgson has since spoken in documentaries about how the experiences affected her psychologically. She stated that the events stayed with her throughout her life and were very difficult to process. Margaret Hodgson had also described the fear she felt during the events and the bullying that the family experienced afterward, including being targeted by classmates and the public. Peggy Hodgson, the mother, struggled to support her children during this time while dealing with the stress of the investigations, media attention, and financial hardship. The family eventually moved on with their lives, and the house itself is still standing today. Modern occupants have not reported any paranormal activity. Maurice Grosse continued his work in psychical research after the Enfield case and remained active in the field until his death in 2006. Guy Lyon Playfair continued researching and writing about paranormal phenomena for the rest of his life. He published books on the Enfield case and remained a strong advocate for its authenticity until his death in 2018. The Enfield Poltergeist remains one of the most thoroughly documented yet disputed cases of alleged paranormal activity. Its combination of eyewitness testimony, photographic evidence, and admitted deception makes it a complex and fascinating subject that continues to be studied and debated today.
And it really does, because, like, look what we've done. I mean, we've sat here for 3/4 of an hour going over the transcripts and the reports and things from the family. You cannot say this did not happen. You can't. There's
Something happened to
nothing.
this family.
Yeah. They've made zero money out of it. They got bad publicity for it. There was just the whole thing, to me, just and I do feel like, to a certain extent, I was looking into some of this, and I feel like they were abused by the press. From
They
me,
were.
I see a frightened mother looking for help, trying to find answers, and I feel like they just capitalized, as they do, off every single thing, and they did it off this as well. The reason
And the
they were
father
bullied,
wasn't
and the
involved
reason
either.
I know, and he was, did he
The father was
see, he was
the father was fully aware of everything that was going on and wasn't involved. Do you
and
know what
done
the father
nothing.
was
Yeah,
doing? Do you know what the father was doing? He had got a woman
someone
round the corner
else.
pregnant with twins.
There you go. That'll fucking do it. Do you see what I mean? And to me, it just sounds like she is a struggling mother, and the last thing she needed was the exposure the press gave her. Do you know what I mean? And I just
Yeah.
think this is where we have to watch, because you know what? Like, the press can do so many great things when you're looking for a missing person, or there's a report on something, or an update. But you
Yeah.
know, when it comes to things like that, they can be detrimental to the mental
They can be
well-being
just
of
as
people. It's
damaging. Yeah.
actually
They can be just as
disgusting.
damaging.
Yeah. What are your
Like,
thoughts on it? I mean, do you feel like it's real? How
I
do you
mean,
feel about it? Where are you sat?
I I feel like that the people involved have sworn down. They've sworn down that it's absolutely
Yeah.
100% real. The
Yeah.
kids have admitted to messing with them, and I think that in the documentary that I watched, the reasoning was given that Maurice Grosse had been taken out of the investigation, and the things that they made up were to get Maurice back because he
Back.
was the one that they trusted.
That's right. That's exactly what I read as well, 100%. Janet liked
Because they
Morris Gross.
trusted
She
him.
trusted him, yeah. But he
Yeah.
never exploited them. He never done anything to
No.
exploit them. He came in to disprove it and couldn't, and then spent the rest of his life writing about this. This
Became
is his one and
became
only.
really close.
Yeah. And he was so close with that family until he died.
Can we just talk about the fact that that this whole incident happened literally 1 year after Maurice Grosse lost his daughter,
Yeah.
and her name was also Janet.
Yeah.
So I
So
feel like he was sent.
to help her. And
Yeah.
I think that this spiritually gave him a path to heal a little bit. From losing his own child, he was able to step
Yeah.
in and try and help another. And I've seen some of the things that Maurice Grosse has written about the press, about the treatment of the Hodgson family, and about
Yeah.
how they were vilified and called fakers. I mean, it was his
Yeah.
job to prove them wrong, and he had done so on so many cases. So it's not
Yeah.
that he bonded with the family. He has proved a lot of people wrong when it comes to poltergeist activity. That man had nothing,
Hmm.
nothing.
And he also
And he
showed the
admitted
family
it.
nothing but kindness.
Yeah, he
He
did.
showed the family nothing but kindness. Playfair didn't get quite the same response in the way that he bonded with the
No,
family, but he
he
didn't get
didn't.
any bad reports either. So
No, I feel like he was very, I mean, he wasn't terrible. He was really professional. He came out, he did what he had to do, and then he left, and that was that. And I do
yeah,
feel like a little bit of that was out of fear for him, because you do hear about people saying if you work with poltergeists, you can take them home. Ed and Lorraine Warren, the museum, the whole thing.
yeah,
There is a part of people that think if they go somewhere that is haunted, that a part of that can come home. And I'm not saying it can't, because we, again, have read so many accounts of people going somewhere somewhere.
Yes.
Just last week, we read about people going to Edinburgh dungeons and taking something back with them,
Yep.
and that's what they felt. And I do think that spiritualism is greater in people who are frightened, and people who are frightened reach for anything. And I do think that he fell into that category because you could see and hear him getting visibly more frightened in these transcripts. And it was almost
Yep.
like he wanted to help Janet but was frightened of Bill. Do you know what I mean? He
Yeah.
sat in the middle, I think. But
Which,
that's just
let's
my
be
opinion.
fair. Let's be fair though. Who wouldn't be frightened of Bill?
Well, that's it. I mean, I would be. I wouldn't be sitting there
I
having a
don't think
Cornish
that's his
pasty and
thing.
chilling with the guy. Yeah, it's not going to be
No.
me. I'm not going to be chucking on my Ouija board and being like, spell your name. No, I'm out. See you later. Have a good day. But I do think that even though you choose to do a job like that and you choose to work in that line, there has to be some element of fear. Like, there has got to
Yeah.
be some
Well, there
element
has
of,
to be a
oh
cut-off
my
point.
God.
There
I
has to be a
think
cut-off
Morris
point. You have to have your
Gross,
boundaries strong.
yeah, and I think that Morris Gross went into that line of work because he never thought he would see anything like what he did in Enfield. I think that he always was able to disprove it, and it satisfied some part of his mind until he got somewhere where he couldn't do that, and then that, and he was very outspoken, and he stuck up for Mrs. Hodgson and the entire family the whole time. He did not let them down until the day he died. He had their backs, their whole backs. But again, it was just the press that never. And some of the things that they said about Janet and her sister were just shocking.
Yeah, they were. I think we also need to, the attitudes were very, very different then. And
Yeah.
like now, if that was to happen now, the Hodgkins, the whole family would be rolling in it because press would be paying them for their stories left, right, and centre. But then they gain nothing, nothing at all.
But that's what I'm saying about if it was all fake, they could come out right now and say that they fooled everybody and make so much money and explain how they
Right?
did it. But because they cannot explain how they done it or how it was done because they never did it, they're unable to come out and say that, which again proves again that this is not something that's fake.
Can I just say one thing, right? So, Insidious 2, The Conjuring 2, which is
Great.
based on the Enfield, Poltergeist. Can I
Hmm.
just say they had British actresses there, and their Cockney accent was horrific.
Yes,
It
it
was like
wasn't great.
nails on a chalkboard. It was like nails on a chalkboard. If you want a Cockney actress, hi, I'm not an actress, but I'll do it.
She'll
I'm
do
a
the
Cockney actress.
voiceovers, like she's got
I'll
it,
do
and
the
she
voiceovers.
definitely is a
I'll make
Cockney.
it
She
sound
got you.
genuine.
Yeah,
But
she's like
that
Oliver.
Cockney accent was like nails on a chalkboard for me.
See when
But
she goes on one, she's like Oliver's pal, the Artful Dodger. That's what she sounds like. I'm just like,
the first one with Timothy Spall in it, that
mm,
was the accents were genuine. They were really good, and I think like they
yeah.
leaned into like the locality. But the Conjuring one, Insidious, that was very Americanized. So
A lot
they
of them can give off like a
exaggerated.
misrepresentation as well,
Yeah,
though.
they'd
Yeah, they go for
exaggerated the Cockney
stereotypes, don't
accent.
you think?
Yeah, and I was there like, yeah, that's not how I sound, mate.
It's the
That
same
is
when
not.
people say to me all the time, like, oh, you're Scottish. Like, my great granddad came from Dublin. I'm like, it's Ireland. We're not the same. We're not the same.
Right. But I think we have um, sucked everything we can out of this whole
I do.
situation
I
now.
think that we absolutely wrung this one out to dry. I think we did a super good job. I was really invested in this one. I think that, sometimes it just takes a little bit of digging and you can find gold. And this podcast is proof of that, I think.
Oh,
Because
absolutely.
I think there's a little bit of something for everybody in this podcast, and if you cannot take anything away from it, you need to watch it again, which obviously we're not opposed to because more views. Please, please,
Right.
please leave us a like and a comment. Let us know what you think and where you're from, and hopefully you stick around for the next one. I'm gonna leave it to
Leave us a
Gypsy.
pumpkin in the comments to let us know you made it to the end, because listen, I love my pumpkins. Leave us a
Hmm.
pumpkin in the comments if you made it all the way to the end.
She
And
does love a pumpkin.
I have been Gypsy and she has been Quinn. Until next time, stay curious.
See ya!
Buckle up, baby. Buckle up, baby. Down in the dark where the cold spots bloom, Gypsy's got a tail, Quinn cracks the gloom. Hear the knock, hear that hiss, something's near. You don't want to miss. Buckle up, baby. It's buckle up, baby. Gypsy and Quinn, they take you there. Buckle up, baby. It's buckle up, baby. Ghosts in the room and shivers in the air. Buckle up, baby.